Well, when it got light, I like reached down to get her a snack or grab some gloves or something out of the pack. And I literally looked down for half a second and looked up, and there's a Jake 5 yards away from the blind. And I'm like, oh no. And I'm like, Evan, there's a turkey. She's like, what do I do? And I'm like, oh, let's say, and we're both like scrambling to get the gun, and the adrenaline rush is there, and she ended up missing, but it actually got her more hooked, I think, than if she would have shot it.
Listen, brothers, the fire is burning brighter. Tracks and Tackle Supply is officially open. We've got tough apparel built for real hunters. Shirts, hoodies, and hats that carry our message loud and clear. Plus scrape ropes from our brothers at Scrape Rope Company, a wide variety of game calls, whitetail minerals, attractants, and custom baits from High Octane Custom Baits. This isn't just a store. It's the next step in our hunting family. Every purchase goes straight back into the Tracks and Tackle podcast. Keeping the stories real, the traditions alive, and the campfire burning for the next generation. Head to tracksandtackle.com right now. Gear up, support the show, and hunt your hunt. Nature is our playground. Let's get after it.
Hey, hunting family. Welcome back to the Tracks and Tackle podcast. I am your host, Ron the Arrow Eagle Mentzer. And as always, I've got my brother, Kris, the Doe Commander Buchman, with me today.
Yeah.
How you doing, Kris?
What's up, man? I'm doing so good. How are you, brother?
Just another beautiful day in the Pennsylvania backwoods. So got a fun one for us tonight. I'm interested in the guests we have coming joining us tonight. Let me do a little bio here. Aaron Hepler, he's an outdoor writer. He's a hunter. He's a host of the InCamp Podcast based right here in Pennsylvania. Aaron is deeply passionate about backcountry hunting, thorough scouting, and the full outdoor experience. So he's going to fit right in with us. He's known for his honest, relatable approach to deer season, conservation, and ethical hunting practices. And through his InCamp podcast, Aaron sits down with outdoor industry professionals, fellow hunters, and conservationists to have real conversations about what it means to be in the woods and do it the right way. So, Aaron, man, thanks for coming on the show with us today. We're looking forward to hearing your story, diving into some backcountry hunting experiences, and talk about what's happening in the Pennsylvania outdoors right now. How are you doing?
I'm good, buddy. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
Should be a great time. I'm with you, man. There's nothing like a good backcountry story,
Yeah, no, we do. We actually do a couple of, so we do the podcast, and then we do a couple of other, like, I would call them shows on the side. And we do a show we call Backcountry Rewind, where, you know how guys like us, we all go out and we record our hunts and we post them on YouTube, and, we want to be, TV stars like that. Well, what we'll do is Chris's brother, Josh, and I will sit down and we'll do like live reaction videos, watching just our buddies hunting videos.
Yeah.
And we call it the Backcountry Rewind because there's nothing like it, man.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mystery Science Theater each other, making fun of each other and all that, So take it away, Aaron. Tell us about how, you got involved in the outdoors and how it ended up in this podcast and everything in between, dude. Talk away.
Yeah, man. I grew up hunting and fishing from as little as I can remember. I mean, I got pictures of me from, knee high to a grasshopper with bluegills and all that kind of stuff. But, when we grew up, it was, you couldn't hunt till you were 12, or at least you couldn't carry a gun until you're 12. Now you can be like, I don't know, 4 or something.
Yeah.
Well, whatever, however old the parent feels is okay. But, which is kind of cool. I got to take my daughter out this year. She's 11. So so that's kind of unique and something cool in this day and age. But man, I really cut my teeth on small parcels, and for fishing, it was just all wherever we could go, farm ponds, little lakes, that kind of thing. PA's got not a lot of water, but they have a lot of small lakes that are, like electric motors only or whatever. So a lot of that kind of stuff. And as far as deer hunting, I spent a lot of time hiking around on public land in all these really cool places that my dad would take me to. But the only places we hunted were small, private parcels, and we saw a lot of deer, and I learned a lot that way, and it was fun for kids, man. Like I got to see deer almost every time I went hunting and that kind of thing. And my dad and my uncle spent a lot of time getting the permission on those places. And at some point I kind of got to an area where I was like, man, that's not really enough. I can see some big bucks every now and then. But I have to go to where I'm allowed to go. I can only go to this corner of the property or that corner of the property. And there's all that tied into hunting small parcels and private land. So I was like, I'm just going to go stomp around. And a buddy and I kind of convinced, not really convinced because he already hunted public a little bit, but I convinced a buddy, I'm like, man, we just need to go check these places out that are near our house. And he's like, yeah, let's go do that. And we spent some time doing that kind of thing. And man, I just fell in love with the public land aspect. Not really. Yeah, I didn't get on the train before it was trendy, but I got on the train right around when everybody when Dan Infalt started writing a lot more articles for like Realtree and for Field and Stream and that kind of thing. I was like, man, this guy's got something to say. This is cool. And I've grown up like every other Pennsylvanian, that's my age, thinking that bucks were a ghost. And I found out they're actually a lot easier to find than you'd imagine, So fast forward through all that stuff, I spent a few years hunting deer on public and almost forgot about everything else. I still bass fished a lot and that kind of thing, but I didn't spend a lot of time pheasant hunting, and I waterfowl hunted for a little while, but I got real bit by the go kill a big buck thing. And I had bow hunted. To one point, I had bow hunted for 18 years and hadn't shot a buck with my bow yet. I shot a couple of does, but no bucks yet. And I hadn't killed a deer on public land yet, ever. So we had scouted an area in March, and my buddy that I convinced to hunt public with me, we scouted this area in March, found some real good spots, and went in. And we really had a great morning. We saw, he saw a couple bucks. I saw a bear that almost climbed my tree. And I ended up arrowing my first buck with my bow. And it was my first public land deer. It was 100 and, I don't need to say the score, but it was a 10-pointer. Okay. And, I was pretty stoked about killing. It was my biggest buck at the time. And I'm like, man, this has got to be the coolest thing ever, And so biggest buck, first public land deer, my first bow buck, and I am stoked. Now I remembered that I had read all these articles from all these different people, and I just reached out to all of them and just said, thank you. Hey, like you poured some time into these articles, and I know like you're doing it for you, kind of like it's fun for you, but like just so you're reaping the reward, like you're obviously doing this to help people. And I messaged a couple people, but I messaged Tony Peterson, Tony Peterson that writes for Me Deer. I messaged Tony and I told him the story. Like I wrote the story out on Facebook Messenger or whatever, and said, thanks so much, man. Like I had read your book. I read all your articles. I listened to all your podcasts. And truthfully, he was somebody that I really related to, because he doesn't have like, if you said what kind of whitetail hunter is Tony, he isn't that kind of whitetail hunter. He's like, whatever the deer are doing, I'm going to do that. Yeah. And I'm not going to try to make it happen a different way. So, I just said thanks. And he's like, hey man, that's really cool. How about you call me and tell me the story? I really want to hear it. So I got to know Tony pretty well. And I ended up, I don't remember if it was that year or I don't remember how it was, but I ended up being on, he had his own podcast at the time, and I was on his podcast a few times, and just, I don't think he's like directly mentored me in any direction, but
Certainly
just,
influence.
yeah, absolutely. Like he's the kind of person that I would like to be when it comes to the hunting industry. Like he's very genuine. He's got a lot of integrity. He cares about how he does things. He cares about sharing those things with other people. He himself will probably say, I'm just an asshole, but he's not, he just likes to be a tough guy when he says that, but he's really like he's really a genuine human, and you kind of get what you get when you're talking to him. So I was like, I'd really like to do something in the outdoor industry. Like I'm a registered nurse in intensive care or whatever, and I don't remember how long I was at the time. I've been a nurse for 17 years now, but he was like kind of an influence because I love to read his stuff, and it was just pretty unique to the space. It wasn't all tactical all the time,
Uh-huh.
And I started writing for like small blogs and publications. Like I wrote for the PA Game News way back, and that was kind of one of my first articles. I wrote about that deer, and actually I have that laying over here. It's in this. That's, if you're a Pennsylvania hunter, you know what the PA Game News
the Game News
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know, man. That's kind of how I got into the writing thing, and one thing led to another. There, I wrote for Clint Campbell from Truth from the Stand, and that was kind of, he heard me on Tony's podcast and was like, "Hey, why don't you come on my podcast?" And we're like, "Hey, how about we scout together?" And then, like, okay, like, and I was writing for Backcountry Hunters and Anglers when I met Clint, and kind of frustrated by some of this, it takes a long time for them to post your stuff, and then they're like, "Oh, this is irrelevant now," and I'm like, "Oh, I sent it to you months ago," that kind of thing. You know how it is. But one thing led to another, and I got to write for Meat Eater. I've written like, I don't know, 6-7 articles for them, 6-7 as the cool kids say now. But it's been a cool ride. But I worked with Exodus Outdoor Gear. Those guys, Chad Sylvester. So they had a trail camera company, and they have actually the podcast is still going. It's called WHTL Podcast now. They had a small trail camera company, and I wrote for their blog for a while. And I got to run, like the outdoor show and that kind of thing. So I'm always like, man, these guys have a podcast. Clint, I really want to do a podcast, but I don't want it to be just deer hunting. I don't want to talk about just deer because I know I'm going to get bored. I've written for deer for a while. Like I think now I haven't written anything for probably 6 months or so, but I've written for about 7 years. So I'm just like, I need to do something better. And I thought about doing a podcast for years until I pulled the trigger about a year ago, and just kind of talking about everything. There's not really a limit to what I like to do outside. Like I said, I probably am. I'm primarily a whitetail hunter. I primarily like to hunt with my bow, but I like to hunt the rifle season in PA, and I like to go bow fishing, and I like to fish for bluegills, and I like to fish for bass and pike and muskies and hunt for bears. Anything I can get my hands on, I really love it. That's a long-winded, that's a long-winded introduction, but
that's cool, man.
Yeah,
just being outside, right?
That's what we're about. Yeah. So one of the things that we like to say, we like to coin the phrase, nature's our playground. And this is what we do. Like, it really doesn't matter whether we're, sitting around the campfire or, taking a hike through the mountain. Like, I want to get into the mountain, that sort of thing. But we would just want to get outdoors. And Aaron, I got a list of, thoughts just listening to you introduce yourself and take us through that. I appreciate that. One of the things you said about when you started getting out on to the public land is, hey man, I had a hunting buddy and I sort of brung him along, and we talk about this all the time. So people that listen to us hear us talk about this all the time, but Kris and I always talk about how easier it is to just get to motivate when you have somebody to do it with you, if you're not going out and doing it on your own. And certainly a lot of us go out and fish alone, hunt alone, hike alone, etc. But doing it with the camaraderie piece is a big piece, and it makes it a lot easier to go out there and try something new, like going out and tackling the public land, because we got plenty of it here in PA.
Yeah, lots of it. There's about 4 million acres of public land in Pennsylvania, give or take. So we're pretty blessed with all that here. But yeah, I would like to be a tough guy and say that I'm a loner, but I'm really not. I like having somebody on the truck ride to and from to bounce ideas off of, and then to talk about how much we suck at the end of the day. If I'm deer hunting or if I'm fishing, I like to have somebody on the boat. It's not that I don't like to do any of that stuff on my own, because there's a really nice balance, because I can do it on my own if I want to. And there's plenty of days where I'm like, I'm not inviting anybody tomorrow, because I just want to go and be quiet and just enjoy myself,
So this ties in, and then I'll throw it to you, Kris, but this ties into another thought that I had, because you were just talking about your profession, and, that nursing profession can be, especially in, depending on the arena you're working in, it can be a traumatic industry to be in. And maybe you want to speak to that solitude, that solace, that, because look, deer hunting, even if you're not seeing anything, just getting outdoors and getting into to your tree stand or getting into the mountain, that can be very therapeutic.
Yeah. I was actually just talking about this with one of my good hunting buddies the other day. We're actually both nurses in the intensive care, and he lives in the same, he lives down the street from me. So we spent a lot of time hunting together. And we were just talking about this the other day, is like, I've worked in intensive care my whole career, so it's a long time. And, barring COVID, even without COVID, you see a lot of people die, and you see a lot of crazy stuff, a lot of stories that you're like, I can't make that up.
Right.
I can't make that up. And, you see a lot of people die in pretty terrible ways. But it kind of desensitizes you a lot. And when you are by yourself in the woods, it kind of hits you a little bit. There's points in time where I might even just go to the woods knowing that I'm probably going to not really pay attention to what's going on around me, because I'm going to unwind a little bit,
Yeah.
And that's not really a bad thing, because after I've gotten a good night's sleep, after not getting a good night's sleep, if I'm going hunting, and then I'm tired when I get home,
Yeah.
But the next day, hopefully, I am generally a better human and better dad and better husband than I was when I went hunting. And I know that's kind of like a cliche thing that people say all the time, but it really is true. Like, you do find some kind of peace in the outdoors when you're in creation, and you kind of just get to chill out, and you kind of do take away that, because there's so many times where we were talking the other day, and there's so many things that I might laugh at that somebody would think I am a horrible person for being like, what I mean? Like, kind of make some pretty gnarly jokes sometimes,
I 100% identify with that. So people that know me know this. I don't talk about it a ton here, but I've been a deputy sheriff with the Department of Corrections for 17 years.
Wow, yeah.
So I've seen it all too, man. Smelled it all, seen it all.
Yeah.
Going through it all. And one of the things I love the most is I'm a field trainer, so I train people that are coming in, and that's what I tell them. One of the first things I tell these guys is you need to have something where the uniform comes off. You need to be able to disconnect somewhere, whether that's sports or hunting or fishing or golf, whatever it is. And you have to be able to disconnect and go do that. And, for us, that's sitting in the woods, that's watching the water, listening to a stream run, and just blanking out, man. So I 100% identify with that. I'll tell you some stories off air. But to backtrack a little bit, talking about some of like the meat eater guys, I don't know any of them. I watch some of the stuff. When my boys were real little and Bear Grease was coming out and This Country Life with Brent Reeves had come
Yep.
out. We listened to it every Friday. We would take the family trip, go out, get an ice cream, taking a ride, and we'd put that on. So fast forward just a little bit, my son killed his first duck. And it was right after Brent Reeves had just put a thing out about duck hunting. So, he had a Facebook page. I just hit add friend. I didn't think he was really going to add me as a friend. We did, whatever. And I don't pretend that we're friends and know each other, but I just sent the dude a message, like trying to pump him up. He worked in law enforcement. Hey, this is what I do. We listen to you every week. My son killed a duck, and this is cool. He messages me back and he goes, tell me your son's name and what happened. And he sent him this whole video message. Hey, bro, I can't believe you called him first name. And, just this cool thing of taking the time out. So, to tie that into your first stories, and we talk about this all the time. And I was just on another friend of both of ours with Alex from Buck Down.
Oh, yeah, he's
his
a cool
podcast.
Guy. Yeah.
And we were talking about kids and stuff. And, again, what I'm trying to tie in is it just takes somebody to fan the flame just a little bit. Yeah. No matter how old you are, right? Just to pump you up, just to say, hey, man, that's cool, man. Tell me your story. Hey, try this,
Yeah.
And, I'm not giving you lip service because we're talking, but I was driving today listening to your podcast that you were talking about the guy from the bow shop that you met that got you back into shooting and stuff. That's all it takes, man. Is somebody to get you pumped up. Yeah. And it's just an awesome thing, man.
Yeah. And that was kind of a cool part of the story too. Cause honestly, Tom, the guest that you're talking about, Tom was kind of a writer too. So he had that influence on me too. Like, I remember it got kind of like, I wasn't hearing from people or whatever, and he'd be pretty encouraging. Like, oh, just write them again, man. Like they'll, or knock on somebody else's door or whatever. And it was cool because I was in that bow shop like twice a week, probably hang out with Tom, you know what I mean? And, talk mostly I was like, I really wanted to hunt with Tom, but Tom didn't have time to go hunting, the manager of that, the owner of that bow shop had cancer and Tom was the only other employee. Right. So Tom was the manager and worked every day. So he didn't have a lot of time to go, to go hunting and stuff when that man or that owner was sick. And unfortunately that bow shop closed because that owner died and his wife sold all the inventory for the business, but it was around a long time. So it was kind of cool to get rekindled that way. And, now I've known Tom for, probably 8 or 10 years or something like that. And, I got to have a lot of fun with that bow. Like I killed that buck with that bow. I killed a couple other deer. I killed an elk with that bow, so it's a lot of cool memories with that. So.
Yeah. It's all it takes, that one person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was sitting here, and I've heard you guys both say this, but going back to somebody and just saying, hey, thanks, or going back to somebody and they don't realize the influence that they made. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was like insignificant, or you said something, you don't know when you say something insignificantly, like how that impacts the people around you,
Yeah.
And most people don't go back and say thanks. Like Aaron, your example was, you messaged and you just said, hey man, this has actually affected me. And Kris, your story kind of likewise, but, I don't know. I think about that a lot, how like 9 out of 10 aren't going to come back and give appreciation. Right. Yeah. So when you're the one that does, it's kind of nice to hear that, because at the end of the day, like you might be on the other end of that someday, where somebody circles around and comes back to you and says, you were talking about this subject matter and it really got me thinking, or I was able to connect with that. And so when you're doing podcasting and writing like you do, Aaron, and that sort of thing, your reach is further than what you might even realize. Social media has made it that way, right? Where we can pretty much connect with whomever, and it's like an equalizer.
Yeah, it is it's kind of a double-edged sword as a tool, because there is some real gnarly stuff on social media, but
Yeah.
For the most part, it I don't really like social media, but I use social media. And the reason, and it seems to people like, what do you mean you're posting all the time? Yeah, I am, because I want it to be a place that's safe and a place that's good. And it's never really going to be that 100%. But if I'm one person that can make a difference for one person, that can make a difference for two people, that's really important. And, kind of what you said is like something that's important about that is I'm not saying this to toot my own horn. The going back and saying thank you is written in history, man. Like
I know
it's in the Bible,
Yep,
like
that's the
like,
story.
yeah, it's the story. And that's something that I take home with me all the time. Like if somebody did something for me, I have to say thank you, even if they don't know you know what I mean? Like it's like, it's kind of, and it's important. It's important.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what I thought of whenever I brought it up. But go ahead, Chris.
No, and you guys are all well aware, Aaron, probably more than both of us. This environment and industry, however you want to call it, is full of selfish people. There's no middle with it, right? They're either, one for all, or they're out on the solo mission. They don't care. They're going to take your information. There's no middle ground at all. And deer hunting itself, in itself, is a selfish, let me kill the biggest deer. I'm not going to tell you where I was. It's hard to find those guys that support each other, right?
The problem with especially with big game animals is that we've developed a scoring method and something to compete, and which isn't like a terrible thing. I like that part of it, but it's not why I do it. Like if I want to be like, oh, I shot 150-inch buck, I want to be like, I think that's cool. Like I can say that I shot 150-inch buck. That's neat. And I can have something that I can achieve for myself or whatever, if that's important to me at the time. Cause like, I shot a 100-inch deer this year. You know what I mean? I don't really care. And, there's years that maybe I will care, if there's a buck that I think is shootable and I think it's fun to go chase that deer and I've got tons of doe tags in my pocket, I might chase that buck, but I think that's one thing about, like the wholesome aspect of it. Like, if I'm going to go catch bluegills for a fish fry, I don't really care how big they are. I like catching big ones because they're fun, man, but I don't really care how big they are. They're all going in the box,
Right.
So I think there's that part of it. Like I was talking to Chad Sylvester today about this, and I said, like, I was going to say this, but I don't think if you only hunt deer with a bow and you're like, I'm a bow hunter, I hunt deer and that's it, you probably should try at least one other thing. Just try it, because it will make you better at bow hunting, no matter what aspect it is in the outdoors. What if you're squirrel hunting or bow fishing or whatever it is, there's something about that will probably make you a better deer hunter in some aspects, whether it's your reaction time is better or your shooting is better, or you learn a couple of things about animals better, and you might have fun, and it doesn't have to be like, deer hunting can be pretty involved. Like there could be a lot of gear and there could be a lot of learning and a lot of scouting and a lot of time. If you don't got a lot of time because you have family obligations or whatever, pick something small, like go shoot groundhogs or just try something,
Yeah. I got all sorts of thoughts on this, right? Because one of the questions I wrote down before you just talked about you'll shoot big deer, you'll shoot small deer, was big bucks versus small bucks. Do you smash or pass on that, right? Because we say all the time, like, hunt your hunt. I don't care if you're a crossbow guy, if you're a recurve guy, like we don't give each other a hard time, right? What does that mean to you when we say hunt your hunt? And here's my point, perspective is everything. So,
well, just like I just said, like there might be a year where I probably have a little bit of ADHD, right? And I like to bounce around. That's probably why I like to do so many things, like just try everything, But if I look at deer hunting, I'm like, man, I just can't wait for deer hunting this year. And for whatever reason, I'm ate up with it that year. Because there's been years where I'm like, it's deer hunting. And I still go an awful lot. I go an awful lot. I work 3 days a week as a nurse. I go an awful lot, but there's years where I might be more frustrated with it than other years or whatever. And those are the years really just to pick a time to just have fun and fling some arrows, man, or shoot some bullets or whatever, ethically, obviously. But a couple years ago, I put some cameras out with a buddy, and we got a couple of real big bucks. And I was like just infatuated with one. I'm going to find that one, And I really, because of the way he was behaving and because of the history I had in the area, I really had a good feeling about finding that deer on, a pretty good sized chunk of public. And we ended up I honed the cameras in a little bit, and we got pictures of him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up having an encounter and hitting him on like November 1st, and I didn't recover him. I actually went back the next day to grid, and I found him with my buddy, and he was very alive and and made his way out of my life fairly quickly that day. But encouraging, because I know he didn't die from my arrow. I just gave him a little skin,
We've
whatever.
all been there. Yeah.
But he was large. He would have been my biggest buck. I don't know, somewhere 145, 150, somewhere between 145, 155, real big 10-pointer. And he had this long 4 on the one side that was really cool. And you don't get a whole lot of opportunities in PA. I've shot a couple of deer in the 120s, like right at the Pope mark, but you don't get a lot at a truly, his tracks were bigger than my hand. He was just
mature deer. Yeah.
He was just giant. And it was really cool to get the encounter with him. And I still should on myself for that one, should have did this, should have did that. But, that was one of those years where I was like, you know what, I'm just ate up with hunting. I want to hunt. I didn't really care how big it was. I just thought it was really cool that I found a deer that I could potentially put a puzzle together, because I put that puzzle together before. Like, he did the same exact thing as other bucks have done in that area. And I'm like, this is the one time where I think I got him. And I can't really say it was exactly like the script, but he came from where I thought he was going to come, and he worked in the way I thought he was going to work in. And I just didn't finish the job,
It happens. And I know, Chris, I'll speak for both of us. We've had it happen, and it's amazing how you can go back and you can replay those moments, moment by moment.
Yeah. I think it's important it is important to, kind of look back on those moments that you're talking about and pick them apart. My mistake was before I like range stuff before, because I know when I'm get all nervous, I'm going to end up forgetting to range or something. And I usually try to, but I know there's a chance that I'm going to forget that. So I range a couple things, and I had a 20 lane. There was 2 deer trails. There was one in 20 yards and there was one at 30 yards. And I ended up, he was working a scrape at like 100 yards, 80 to 100 yards. And I grunted, and he turned and came on a dime. And the way he was working, I thought he was going to be in my 20 on that 20-yard trail, and he wasn't. He ended up turning at the last second, was on the 30, and my mind didn't split it. And I ended up shooting him for like 22 yards, and he was like 32 or something, so it was just one of those unfortunate things where I probably would have, I was a little back. It would have been a liver shot, but had I been 2 inches higher, it would have probably punched the liver pretty good. And I probably be telling a different story, but
game of inches, bro.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was going to say that, a couple of years ago, we had a similar, just hearing you tell the story, we had a similar, mature buck, and he had these tines that would come up and split on both
Yeah.
sides of his tines. And it
Yeah.
was just real unique looking deer. Awesome deer. We had a lot of other deer on cameras, but we had him triangulated on 3 different cameras at the right time of year. And I was like, I'm gonna hunt a big buck this year, because I'm not that type of guy where I'll just lock in on a singular animal and stuff. And I was sharing pictures with Chris and the guys and things. And the problem is, first time you get a decent little basket rack comes in within range, instinct kicks in, man. And that's the deer I ended up taking, because you take the opportunities that present themselves to you.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. The other aspect of it is like this year, like I always put myself in the best position I can to shoot a big buck, and I always try to find one. Like I'm not like, oh, I'm lazy this year and I'm just not going to try. Like I always try, right? And but this year I found a spot that was like one of those places that literally everybody should know about, because we would drive past it all the time. And I found a pretty good reason to find a deer there, and hung a camera there, and I could check it because it was literally 10 yards off a road. I could see my truck, right?
right.
And from the parking lot. And I found that spot just driving around on date nights with my wife, and I was like, it would be kind of cool to kill a deer here. And I had a couple real nice bucks on there. There was actually a 120-inch 9-pointer that went through there the morning that I killed my deer, which I didn't find out about. I didn't check the camera till after I was done hunting, but I ended up hunting this spot, and I actually had sent a buddy into there like during the first week, and he had an opportunity at a nice deer and he passed it up. That was Mitchell, by the way. And,
okay.
I sent Mitchell to that spot, and then I went in there and I was like, I guess it was sometime at the end of October. And I was like, I'm probably shooting the first thing that walks by, because this is cool. Like,
now you're talking.
I already had 6 cars go by me, and like looking at me like, what in the world are you doing? Like you feel like an idiot, kind of.
Yeah.
And this is a pretty heavily hunted piece in that urban kind of area,
It's a little awkward.
Yeah, pretty awkward, So anyway, this deer walked down the trail 2 minutes into legal shooting light, and I shot him at 15 yards through the heart, and he ran 20, which is fortunate because the property lines are
sure
nice.
He's 30 yards away, and I'm like, all right. He plopped over, and I'm like, all right, don't gotta ask permission to go anywhere. I pulled my truck up, threw him in the truck. It was pretty cool, man. I can't say I'm bummed about it.
Sealed the deal, get it done.
Yeah. It'd be pretty crazy to shoot a big deer in there. I don't know if that'll happen, but it was cool either way.
That's where they're at. My father-in-law's a roofer.
Yeah.
And I live in Pennsylvania now, but I don't claim to be a Pennsylvanian. I'm from Maryland. And,
okay.
Outside of
you
Baltimore. You
looked a little strange. Yeah,
it's fine. I'll take that, you Yankee MFers, right? And, anyway, so he did a bunch of roofing jobs, and I'd help him out in the wintertime before I, worked where I did. And he'd always do these things outside of Baltimore and these suburbs of Baltimore. It's probably similar to, Reading and Philadelphia and stuff, just developments, but they had these little tracts of woods. And there would always be, I'm talking, probably, I'm not into the measurements, but you're talking 120, 30, 40, 50 size. And they don't leave this little acre spot, right? And you would just see these just hammer bucks day in, day out, right here, right there, not going anywhere else. They got a little stream down there. They're probably eating people's bird seed and gardens and stuff. Need. Yeah, you know, so you never know what you're going to stumble on in a situation. So,
Chris is the guy that'll shoot at the first thing that comes out. That's his
every
claim to fame.
Every time.
I always tell myself I'm going to pass a deer. I think I've passed up like 2 bucks my entire career, mostly because like again, I put myself in the best position to get the deer that I want. So sometimes I just get lucky and that's the first one that comes by.
Yeah.
But there's been plenty of times where I was like,
reflexes are hard to fight, man.
Yeah.
Reflexes
Well,
are hard to fight.
I go in. We own some property in Maryland. That's where I don't deer hunt at all in Pennsylvania. I live just right over the line.
Okay.
So we were fortunate enough to own some property down there, and I go in with aspirations every year. Oh, there's a couple of these guys hanging around. I'm going to shoot this one, or I'm going to hold off. And no, man, it just doesn't.
Yeah.
And a lot of that changed, and I've said this a couple of times before, when I got into duck hunting. And, it's like anything, and we'll talk about this in a minute, whether it's fishing or whether, when you start fishing as a kid, you're catching bluegills and you're catching, little things like that. You think it's cool. And then you kind of progress and you kind of become like a snob for a little while. Oh, I'm only going to catch bass, or I'm only going to catch, I don't want to catch a catfish. I just want to catch small, whatever. And then same thing when we got into duck hunting, you start to get this kind of elitist kind of mindset. We're only going to shoot drakes and we're only shooting blah, 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 this. And I had a dude one time tell me, bro, we're duck hunting and those are ducks and we're going to shoot all of them, you know? And, when I deer hunt, I got a big family. I say this all the time. If a deer walks by and gives me a good shot, I might give a spike or a 4-point. In Maryland, they don't have antler restrictions. You got a chance.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a chance to keep walking. But if you stop and it's cold, you're going in the truck, especially the first day. The first day of rifle season, you're dead.
Yeah. So the opener for the bow season this year, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden somebody must have spooked some deer, and 8 deer came running up under my stand, and they all kind of, pieced out, and I could see one straggler like pretty far behind, like just kind of taking his time picking through the bushes. And I'm like, well, at some point that deer's coming up here. And I kept my eyes down there every now and then. I could see his tail flick or whatever. And eventually it made its way up the hill. And I'm like, I don't know if it's getting dark, but that deer looks awful far for 20 yards, And I pinwheeled her. She ran 40, 50 yards. And I'm like, sweet, opening day doe. Exactly what you want, knock the cobwebs off. And I'm like, going to find her. And I'm like, I see the white belly. And I'm like, that looks awfully far. I got up to that deer and she was like this big, I was like, oh my God.
Cooler and carry her home in the lunchbox.
But you know what? Yeah. I just put her whole hindquarter in a crock pot tonight.
Can't beat it, dog.
And made some birria tacos, and boy, oh boy, they were good. So
yeah, you're talking.
That's what I say. That's what I say, Aaron. Those young deer eat real good. They're super tender. So
it's strange.
I like veal too.
Yeah, it's strange. They look like pork because the meat's so light. It's not. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of strange, but it was real good. So I'll take it.
I had a story one time years and years ago, probably 10, 12 years ago now. We were hunting down one of our farms in Maryland, and a bunch of deer had jumped, and I thought it was a big doe. And I saw one in the back, and she was kind of standing by 2 trees. Neck was all kind of puffed out. And it looked like a decent doe, right? I had my shotgun I was hunting with, put it behind the shoulder, dropped it, walked up, same thing. I'm like, what the heck? It was a little button buck that was like kind of pre-rutting, and his neck was swelling up and all his fur.
Yeah.
And he had his head back, and I mean, literally like picked it up, dropped it over the fence. I'll be back to get you later, right?
Yeah, we were only in like half a mile for this hunt. And my buddy's like, all right, you need help gutting it? No.
Nope.
He's like, you don't? I'm like, I'm already done. And he's like, all right, well, you need help. What do you want to do? You want to drag it? You want to pack it? I'm like, I'll carry it. And he's like, what? And I like walk out of the bush. He's like standing on the trail. I walk out of the bush. I folded this deer's legs like this and just had it like a suitcase. And he was like,
nice.
Oh, okay.
It happens, but I'll tell you, man, that early season, like you said, getting a little meat in the freezer, knocking the cobwebs off, it's a great feeling when you can connect early on, and then you can get maybe a little bit more selective. Yeah, I get less selective later into the bow season. Usually, as you get deeper into late November, it's like, all right, I'm not going to be choosy.
I am not a rut hunter. I hate hunting in the rut. It's cold. And after daylight savings times, you got to wake up earlier. And I mean, I don't really mind the cold, but the rut is so hit or miss.
It changes everything. Like all your planning, all the mapping that you did, like throw it out the window.
Yeah. If you can figure out the funnels, it's on fire. And you can have some really, really, really fun hunts during the rut. So to me, like if you're going to take vacation and you can only take a week, it kind of makes sense. You just have to do the legwork to figure it out. And I've had some really, really great rut hunts, man. Like where you do have that buck train where they're like just buck after buck after buck. And that's cool. Real, real cool. But there's something about that last like week and a half of October that is just unreal. You know?
It's hard for me to get into it. And once duck hunting, and Ron always rolls his eyes, once duck hunting, bit me, and I was able to go with my sons and my friend, like that's when that's ramping up too. So I have to make the choice, right? And I'm purely right now, I mean, we do deer hunt and I'll shoot the biggest one that I see or I know is there, in theory, right? But I'm a meat hunter most of the time, I'm shooting the biggest doe. They call me the doe commander because I have no problem smashing does. Yeah. And I'll be just as pumped all day.
Yeah.
But changing gears real quick, I mean, you were into some other stuff, man. Fishing. I love seeing the stuff where you fishing with, your kids and the little ones and just smashing bluegills. There's nothing like smashing bluegills, man. I mean, they're just fun, dude.
I, like you said, a purist kind of thing. I was like, I am a catch and release bass fisherman. No, I'm not. I like to catch it all. And I moved to a lake a couple of years ago. And that's when I moved to Schuylkill County, and I found out that the panfish population in this lake is all at their biggest size potential. I know I said I don't care about size. I don't. But man, it is really fun to catch a 10.5-inch bluegill and then to catch a whole pile of them. And then to catch perch that are in the 2.5-pound range and to catch these crappies that are, when you're averaging a 14-inch crappie and you caught 30 of them all day, that's
pretty good.
Yeah. I like that, So it's seriously, I'm like, oh, like now I haven't even taken this year so far. I haven't even taken bass stuff on the boat, So they're actually doing some repairs on our dam, so our lake is down. So I can only use a John boat with a trolling motor because I have to be able to carry the boat to the lake. So, my buddy was like, "Hey, I really want to take my son out fishing," and he's like, "Yeah." Oh, I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it. We'll go out this day." So my other buddy that lives here, I was like, "Well, we can only put really." I can fit me, him, and his son on the boat, and then why don't you take the kayak out and we'll all go have a good time. So we're all kind of fishing together. His son is 4, just turned 4. We started fishing at 7:45, and he didn't want to leave at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, heck yeah.
You're having a good time if he's hanging in like that.
Yeah. And it was kind of funny because his dad's not very good at fishing. And I always kind of like, I bring him, we fish together all the time. And I'm always kind of like, the last time we did a little bass trip up to Oneida, because Oneida's, those New York lakes are awesome lakes and they're easy to get to. They take, 4 hours, whatever. And he and I were fishing Oneida and it wasn't really that great. Like the fishing was kind of subpar. And we fished a couple other times together that I'm like, Brent, the problem is we just haven't had you out on a real good day where everything's biting because, I'm not catching them either. So it's fine. Well, I'm not saying that we were fishing with grenades when we were with his son, but we kept 47 fish,
I can't beat that.
No. And we probably, all in all, after letting some go and stuff, it was somewhere between 60 and 70 fish we probably caught that day.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was pretty good. And Brent caught 4 of those. So we're like kind of like, heckling him on the boat a little bit. At some point he had like his 6th fish on and it got off. And I'm like, he hadn't caught one yet. I'm like, man, whenever you said I'm not really a good fisherman and I'm, I just, I kind of always chalked it up to we were just out on a bad day. I'm like, we're doing pretty good today, dude. And your son already has 15 or 16 in the boat. Like,
yeah.
And so his son hooks a fish, his little 4-year-old, and he's Dad, it's a big, huge one, and he's cranking this thing in. I had to give him my little ice fishing rod. That's what he was using, one of those. It was a dock rod, one of those little crappie dock rods. And he's cranking this thing in, and he's like, Dad, it's a big, huge one. And his dad's like, oh, man, there's it. And he goes to reach down on the side of the boat to get it. And I'm like, flipping the boat. Like, because it wasn't hooked. I could tell it wasn't hooked good. So I was like, flipping the boat. And he reaches down, and the fish flops off the hook. And his son's eyes got big
for that one. Yeah.
Oh yeah. His son's eyes was like, he was like, this was right after we got done heckling him too. He he looks at his dad. He goes, that was you.
Yeah. Not fishing with you anymore, Dad.
Yeah. But I got to take my own kid out turkey hunting this year. That was, that was really that was her first time being the hunter. I've taken her deer hunting. I always usually wait till she asks, but this I was like, why don't you go turkey hunting with me this year? She's like, sounds good. Let's do it. And I had gotten her we have a 2-year-old Brittany Spaniel, and I had taken her out to watch him, shot some pheasants with her and stuff, and that was cool. And she was like, yeah, I think I could do it, Dad. So I borrowed a little 410 for her, got her all set up, and she was ready, man. She was like, had fun at the target, shooting. She's like, this is so cool. And I ended up doing the whole deal with her. I woke her up at 4:00 in the morning. We're going to go, had all the snacks she wanted. And like, I got to find a way to make this fun because we're probably not going to see a turkey,
Right. Yep.
And I ended up calling a Jake in like 20 minutes. And I made a mistake, man. I didn't think we were going to see anything, so I wasn't ready, And we heard a bird on the roost, and I'm like, okay, perfect. We heard a bird. She's excited about hearing the bird. That's cool, good enough. Well, when it got light, I like reached down to get her a snack or grab some gloves or something out of the pack, and I literally looked down for half a second and looked up, and there's a Jake 5 yards away from the blind. And I'm like,
wow.
Oh no. And I'm like, Evan, there's a turkey. She's like, what do I do? And I'm like, oh, let's say, and we're both like scrambling to get the gun, and the adrenaline rush is there, and she ended up missing, but it actually got her more hooked, I think, than if she would have shot.
Well, that's what I was thinking, man. You couldn't have any play out any better. I guess you harvest the bird, but sometimes it's the ones that get away. As long as there's action, that makes it exciting. And there's the chase now.
Well, I did a podcast with Travis Frank from the Flush TV. He's an upland guy, real cool dude. Really enjoyed having him on. But he was like, hunting especially with your kids, there's some things that you can knock off. Like you don't have to walk 3 miles on their first hunt, and that kind of thing. But hunting's not really supposed to be easy. And he said so many people will start their kids and say, I'm going to wait to take my kid to North Dakota where we can just have shooting all day long. And we're not going bass fishing unless we go to the St. Lawrence River and they can catch 100 in one day because I want to get them hooked. That's not the part that gets your kid hooked. And it could be spending time with you. That's part of it. But I think there's that other part that is the time investment, like she had to learn how to shoot the gun, and then she had to wake up really early, and then she had to be quiet and do all those things that were kind of hard for a kid that hasn't really done that a whole lot. And then, does she really care about turkeys? Like, yeah, she likes to eat them when I bring them home, she thinks they're cool, whatever. But then she pulled the trigger, and it didn't result in just a turkey on the ground. It resulted in a lot more than that to her. Like it was like that moment, because I said, well, are you shaking? Because I was like a leaf.
It happens quick.
Yeah, I was like a leaf. She wasn't shaking, and she's like, no, I wasn't nervous. And I'm like, come on. You were freaking out just as much as I was, and we're like standing there and we're laughing in that blind. And she goes, Dad, I saw the turkey before you, but I didn't think it was real.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Just not knowing. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, like she's like, it was kind of like dancing around and it looked fake. And I'm like, she's like, I couldn't believe it. And I'm like, yeah, that's all the excitement and all the adrenaline that you had going. Cause she, dude, when I looked in her eyes, she was like, you know,
Yeah.
and it's pretty cool to see that. But now she's invested, right? I think if she would have shot that turkey, it would have been mildly anticlimactic. Like, oh, cool, shot a turkey in 20 minutes. All right, we can go home now, you know?
I think that sometimes it's the being included, like the waking up early, the, sighting the gun in, getting to go to camp, like just, being included with in an adult activity. Like that means a lot. It means a lot to them and stuff. And I mean, we're familiar with people that have done everything right to set their kids up and, scouted everything, put them in the stand, set them up. And, they go out there and like you were talking about your hunt earlier, 15 minutes into daylight, they shoot a, bigger buck than most people ever shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like no effort. And they're like, well, I don't know. Dad did all the work to set them up for success. But at the end of the day, it doesn't excite them because there's no challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's exceptions to every rule. Like there's like, if I would have shot a big buck when I was 12, I probably wouldn't have spent a few years missing out on as much bow hunting as I should have been doing when I was in high school. You know what I mean? Because I would have been one of those kids
choosing it over sports or whatever else you're doing on Friday night.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would have been one of those kids that's like, I ain't doing anything else. Like I'm deer hunting. And not that I didn't deer hunt, I still did. It just wasn't quite as intense, you know?
Yeah. If you go back to like, the story you were telling earlier about the bigger one you hit, those are the ones that stand out to you almost more than the ones where you're successful, right? And it's like,
For sure.
If you played when you played baseball as a kid or at any level that you played baseball, you might get up and you strike out or you hit a foul or you don't do well and you go down, you're kind of dejected, but then you're thinking the whole time you're sitting in a dugout or in the field, okay, my next time, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes sometimes. You start thinking about, okay, when he comes in this time, I'm going to be ready. And I know where he's at. And it gets the ball rolling with that. So it's all cool stuff, man.
I just thinking of you say that, like I ended up missing a pretty nice deer a few years ago and went back the next week and I did that exact thing, like coach yourself through that moment. Like last time I messed this up, this time heart shots only, and that's something you definitely pick up from hunting is just making yourself the better person when you come around to that opportunity again.
For sure.
I think that's the goal, right? We all want to get better, faster, stronger. And look, hunting, fishing, like whatever it might be, our love for the outdoors, life lessons come with that. One of the things that my nephew and I say at camp is, all right, lessons learned. What do we learn from this trip? And, and we'll dog on ourselves, the mistakes we made, but there's always a lesson to be learned. So Aaron, this has been an awesome time. We could sit here and chat and tell stories, for another hour, but appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. Why don't you just tell everybody where they can find you, where they can hear the InCamp podcast, and drop your contact information.
Yeah, it's the podcast is at InCamp_podcast, or I have my own. It's Aaron _Hepler. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook and all the normal places. And the podcast's available on Apple, Spotify, and I put it on YouTube most of the time. So you can find it all there. If you want to read any of the writing, there's links on the Instagram to find the different places that I've written and read some of those articles. They're all deer hunting articles. So if you need any tips, you can find it there.
Cool.
Sounds good. Why don't you guys go out, check out the InCamp podcast, read Aaron's articles, and then send him a note following up saying thank you for the inspiration.
Hit us with your song for my playlist, dude.
Man, so is it supposed to be an outdoor song? Like, is it supposed to be outdoorsy?
I mean, that's the goal, but whatever, man. Just something that's cool that you're in the truck driving to the turkey woods and this is what you're blaring.
It's not a life song, but lately I have been listening to a lot of Brandon Lake. He's a Christian artist, and he's got this song called Rattle, and I don't know why, but I go back to that song often. It's a great song.
It's my son's favorite song.
Yeah, it's a great song. Love that song.
Yeah, cool. Let's go on the playlist, dude.
Cool.
Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for hanging out, bro.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. If you tuned in this long, give us a like, share, subscribe. Go check Aaron's podcast out. We appreciate you all. We're just going to remind you, get outdoors, stay wild. Nature is our playground.